Welcome to a tribute to Martin Luther King Jr., as the city of Revere observes the holiday that honors the Baptist minister who became an icon of the civil rights movement across the United States in the 1960s. My name is Catherine Uribe, and I am a senior at RHS. I will later be joined by Edgar Gonzalez, who is a senior at RHS. Tonight's presentation was organized by the city's Human Rights Commission in collaboration with the Revere Public Schools. Unfortunately, the recent COVID-19 surge in the Revere forced organizers to redesign a live program that would have been held in the City Council chambers at Revere City Hall. This remote, pre-recorded event, however, maintains the organizers' intention to highlight and honor Martin Luther King's legacy and his monumental contributions to the advancement of social justice and human rights. His inspiration lives on to this day, 54 years after his death. Our program will include remarks from Representative Jessica Giannino, Representative Jeff Turco, Mayor Brian Arrigo, and newly elected State Senator Lydia Edwards, followed by presentations from participants representing Revere's elementary, middle, and high school students. We begin with our national anthem, performed by the Rumney Marsh Academy Ensemble led by Mr. Tom Mafucci.
Thank you to Mr. Mafucci and his ensemble for that beautiful performance of our national anthem. And as Catherine Uribe said earlier, I am Edgar Gonzalez, who is a senior at Revere High School. For the next portion of our program, it is my honor to introduce you all to Representative Jessica Giannino, Representative Jeff Turco, Mayor Brian Arrigo, and Senator Lydia Edwards, our newly elected state senator. Without further ado, our local officials and Senator Edwards will share some thoughts on Dr. King and the importance on this day.
Hello, everyone. I'd like to thank and commend the City of Revere, the Human Rights Commission, and Revere High School for their commitment to honoring Dr. King's life and work. I would also like to thank Mayor Arrigo for inviting me to speak today and contributing to this celebration of Dr. Martin Luther King and his legacy. In one of his sermons, Dr. King once said, "Life's most persistent and urgent question is, what are you doing for others?" We should all consider this question each day, especially after the past few years. Enduring the pandemic has shown us and taught many of us how finite life is. A lot has been put into perspective, mainly an emphasis on looking out for each other and our well-being. In partaking in today's observations, you're doing your part to make Revere a better community to live in. Further, each day when you do something to help a family member, a friend, a neighbor, or someone in your community, you're helping to renew Dr. King's life's mission. One of my favorite things about Revere is how inclusive and integrated our community is. There are so many residents from different backgrounds, yet at every single event, this city feels like one big family. Other communities can learn a lot from the City of Revere, and for that, I thank you. Thank you all for taking part in the City of Revere's observation of Martin Luther King Day, and for your commitment to our community involvement, and contributing to our greater good. Thank you, and have a great day.
Thank you for the opportunity to say a few words as we prepare to celebrate Martin Luther King Day. My name is Jeff Turco, one of the state representatives from Revere. You know, when you look at the legacy of Dr. King, and, you know, not just for our city, but for our Commonwealth, our nation, and frankly, for our world, it's a powerful, powerful legacy decades after he was murdered in Memphis. And but when we look at him and we look at his age and we look at who he was 25 years old when he started when he took over his first parish church in Alabama. Think about it, 25 years old. and he became the moral leader of our nation, starting being the lead on the Alabama bus boycott. It's just so powerful that all these decades later, we still look to him for his leadership, his wisdom, and his guidance. And one of the messages that he left that I find most powerful was in 1957. He gave a speech where he talked about the power of love. And he said, it's not enough to love your friends, and it's not enough to tolerate your enemies. You need to love your enemies, because the fundamental power of love and the fundamental foundation of love is the power of redemption. And when you love your enemy, you ultimately force them to redeem themselves and to then start to love you as well. And I think in this day and age, that message of love, I think really is what's needed in this country and in this world. And, it's my honor to say a few words and to, welcome everyone to join us all in celebrating Dr. King, celebrating his legacy, and urging you to really take a step back and take some time to go on YouTube and watch some of his old sermons and speeches, because I think they're so powerful to remind us what's important in life and how to bring this country together and our communities together. So thank you very much. Enjoy the day, and God bless.
Greetings, residents and viewers, to the City of Revere's tribute to Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Today's program, unfortunately, could not be held live due to the surge in COVID cases, but I want to commend the Human Rights Commission, our school district, and the Revere High School Equity Advisory Board, and our students participating for quickly coming up with a solution to continue on this celebration. While we would have all liked to have been able to share this commemoration in person, the pandemic has taught us to be flexible and to keep public safety in mind as we go about our social norms. The Human Rights Commission, which was reactivated in the summer of 2020 in the midst of national unrest, has diligently put forward a process to celebrate important cultural and historic moments in the history of our nation and our people. Today's program is one of their first efforts, and I look forward to many more. The youth in our public schools have been at the forefront of conversations about racial injustice in our city, and the future of our city is bright with these thoughtful leaders at the helm. Today's program reflects Dr. King's call to make real the promise of democracy. Only by continuing his work to include all people, regardless of race, gender, creed, and any other marker that distinguishes and divides us, within the mutual strength and protection of American democracy, can we fulfill the ideals that we all, as a community, hold so dear. So please join me as we commemorate the life of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. And now I'm honored to welcome Senator Lydia Edwards, our district's newest state senator, to say a few words. Senator Edwards has dedicated her life to public service, and we are certainly lucky to have her with us today. Senator, take it away.
Hi, everyone. This is Lydia Edwards, or Senator-elect Lydia Edwards. And first, I want to thank Carew and the Human Rights Commission for Revere for inviting me to say a couple words about Martin Luther King Day and what it means to me. I grew up all over the world, as many of you know. I'm a military brat. And I think when I think about Martin Luther King, I think about his dream. I think about him being a leader in truly leading with love and believing that people can be better sometimes in the moment and headspace that they're in, and really being hopeful, being a hopeful leader. He inspires me to always see that the glass is half full, and that even in difficult conversations and difficult moments, we can get through them together as long as you make yourself accessible and approachable and a good listener to all. So on this day, when I reflect about Martin Luther King, I think of the history he made. I think of the history our district has made. And I am proud of it, but more importantly, I think of the true lessons that he has instilled upon all of us to remember always to follow our hearts, and a dream that is colorful and filled with everybody and their beautiful languages and their backgrounds, that is truly allowing people to be who they are and to love who they need to and want to. That's the world, and that's the dream, and that I'm going to fight for in our policies. I want a world where my kids have it easier than I did. I want a world where, regardless of who you love, you are loved. And I want a world where all of us see our diversity as the best thing that can happen to our communities, our cities, our state, our country. I know sometimes rhetoric can be very divisive, and I know sometimes we can be, express anger, distrust towards each other. And I just want to say to those of you who are watching, I promise you to always lead with my heart open, my mind also open, and with a willingness to work with everybody. I think that is what Martin Luther King wants more than anything, is that the table is set and reset and reset and reset as we bend towards justice as a society, as we head towards a more just and democratic world. I'm honored to be your next senator. I will be inaugurated next week on January 20th. And I will do my best not to cry, but just know that if you see tears, they're happy tears. They're happy tears and hopeful tears of what we will do together. Thank you. Bye.
Thank you to our local officials and Senator Edwards. For the next portion of our program, we have two performances from Revere Public School students. First, students from the Revere High School Drama Guild, under the direction of Miss Manisian, will share a reading of two poems, MLK Jr. by the poet Gwedolyn Brooks and Still I Rise by the iconic Maya Angelou. This will be followed by a performance from grade 4 students at the Hill School singing the song Winter Song by Sara Bareilles and Ingrid Michaelson.
A man went forth with gifts.
He was a prose poem.
He was a tragic grace.
He was a warm music.
He tried to heal the vivid volcanoes.
His ashes are reading the world.
His dream still wishes to anoint the barricades of faith and of control.
His word still burns the center of the sun, above the thousands and the 100,000s.
The word was
justice.
It was spoken.
So it shall be spoken, so it shall be done.
You may write me down in history with your bitter, twisted lies.
You may trod me in the very dirt, but still, like dust,
I'll rise.
Does my sassiness upset you? Why are you beset with gloom?
Because I walk like I've got oil wells pumping in my living room.
Just like moons and like suns, with certainty of tide.
Just like hope springing high, still,
I'll rise.
Did you want to see me broken? Bowed head and lowered eyes, shoulders falling down like teardrops, weakened by my soulful cries?
Does my haughtiness offend you? Don't you take it awful hard? Cause I laugh like I got gold mines digging in my own backyard.
You may shoot me with your words, you may cut me with your eyes, you may kill me with your hatefulness, but still, like air,
I'll rise.
Does my sexiness upset you? Does it come as a surprise?
That I dance like I've got diamonds at the meeting of my thighs?
Out of the huts of history's shame,
I rise.
Up from a past that's rooted in pain,
I rise.
I'm a black ocean, leaping wide, welling and swelling, I bear the tide.
leaving behind nights of terror and fear,
I rise.
into a daybreak that's wondrously clear.
I rise.
bringing the gifts that my ancestors gave.
I am the dream and the hope of the slave. I rise, I rise, I rise.
Wow. Thank you to the students from RHS and the Hill for those beautiful performances. Next, I would like to introduce Dr. Lorenzo Garcia, Assistant Superintendent of Equity and Inclusion, and students from the Equity Advisory Board engaging in a panel discussion. The Equity Advisory Board oversees the direct mission to educate, advocate, provide leaderships, and support by cultivating partnerships and resources with key stakeholders to create and sustain a school system that is equitable, diverse, and inclusive for all students and families. Recently, student members of the Equity Advisory Board had the chance to participate in a panel discussion with Dr. Garcia on their current work and its connections to Dr. King's legacy.
Good afternoon. I'm here today with a few students from Revere High School and Revere Middle School, and we're here because we are about to celebrate the legacy of Dr. King. And these students that you see here tonight are part of the Equity Advisory Board, and they've been playing a key role in proposing policies and coming up with ideas to support the equity efforts in Revere Public Schools. And because this is a great month, we're preparing to celebrate the legacy of Dr. King. I will go around and ask them to introduce themselves. And I will start with Erta. Go ahead and introduce yourself.
Hi, my name is Erta Ismahili. I'm a freshman at Revere High. I'm a member of the Equity Advisory Board and Equity Working Group, the Data and Accountability Working Group. I've been working since last year, the 8th grade, and I'm really proud to have the opportunity to speak here today.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Lena McCary, and I'm a junior at Revere High School. And I've been in the equity meeting, district equity team since last year, I think January, and I have also been a part of the Student Voice Agency, and now we're trying to develop a channel to help raise everyone's voices, especially students, and make everyone amplified and heard.
Thank you very much. And we'll zoom on the side and ask
Hello.
Abel to introduce himself.
My name is Abel Acklog. I am an 8th grader at Garfield Middle School, and I have been part of the Equity Advisory Board since last year, 7th grade, and I am part of the Educator Growth and Professional Development Working Group.
Thank you, Abel. Next.
My name is Julia Figueroa. I'm an 8th grader at the Rumney Marsh Academy. I recently joined the Equity Advisory Board, but I'm very excited to work with them and make student voices heard.
Thank you.
Hello, my name is Amir Harper. I am a sophomore at RHS. I've been in the Equity Advisory Board since last year, freshman year, and I am in the Bias and Sensitivity group.
So I'm just going to open the panel with several questions. As we all know, Dr. King was a leader of the civil rights movement, and he has fought tirelessly to bring people together and support the equity work, and also not only the equity, but also the support. He has worked very hard to make sure that people come together and they fight discrimination, and they, work for equity and bring diverse people together towards a common goal. And it's not by any chance that we all saw the I have a speech that he gave, one of the most powerful speeches ever. And I have several questions for you. I'll start with Erta. Erta, could you please, draw a connection between Dr. King's speech, I Have a Dream, and your role as a member of the Equity Advisory Board?
Yeah, thank you, Dr. Garcia. In his speech, Dr. King, of course, talks about the freedom that needs to be afforded to many people of color, and that really applies to educators and students within our district. Educators are rarely, especially educators of color, Black educators are rarely represented in our schools. And in a city that I think we can all agree is so diverse, it's really difficult to see that, because I myself, whenever I see teachers from a background that I can relate to, that makes me feel more comfortable. And really allowing not only the population of specific teachers to grow, but also allowing them to feel supported. Because at the very basis of what we're trying to do is make sure that teachers have a place to grow and have a place to lead. And that also applies to students. And as a member of the accountability working group, we are specifically focusing on disciplinary measures and how different cohorts and different demographics are affected. And last year we looked into specifically Black students, and we found that they were disproportionately affected by suspensions at a much higher rate than their white counterparts. And I feel like that's something that we really need to put into perspective, because data gives us the chance to really look into stark inequities within our society, and we really need to focus on working towards creating an environment where everybody not only has a chance to lead, but also grow and succeed.
Thank you for that answer, Erta. And now I'm going to go to Abel. Abel, if Dr. King were alive today, what issues would concern him the most? How would he organize to solve those issues? Or could you answer that question for me? Because certainly Dr. King passed, was killed many decades ago, and obviously he fought for for some of the real issues that we are facing now, which is fighting for equity, fighting for social justice, fighting for equality in our society, fighting for freedom, the ability to give people a say, and fighting for ways in which we can bring our community together, and for everyone to have a space, a voice, and opportunity access in our in our society. So tell me a little bit. So obviously he died, he was killed. So if you were alive,
what would concern him?
Right.
So we all know about Dr. King's legacy and all of the historical events that led up to before his death, and there are a lot of issues in our community and society. Is how we have some lawmakers and we have people that are in power that aren't exactly So like some of them are racist, and some of them are not exactly. Some of them are biased, and we need to be able to create informational centers for people that like in the younger ages and people that are like students. They are taught about Dr. King, but they aren't exactly taught about what racism actually means and how it happens and how to react when you feel like something like this is happening to you. And I feel like I've been a part of the Equity Advisory Board for a while now, and I learned about when I look at the data and the graphs, I look at like how people of color, they're not exactly being treated like the same way as the whites. And this, like as a main leader, he would be able to guide us to equality, and we need someone that is teaching the students and the younger kids the real meaning of racism.
That's so powerful. I'm going to do a follow-up question on that a little bit. And obviously you think that as a country, as a society, you think that we're making the right moves in terms of, achieving equality or equity, or is that something else that probably we're missing as a society or as a country?
I mean, we have progressed so much since the 1900s, and I feel like we've gotten from the terrible place we were back then, but we still haven't been able to be all joined together and be able to all understand the meaning of racism and what discrimination is. And I feel like if we teach the students and the people, like we teach everyone about Dr. King and like his legacy, but we also have to be teaching them about what racism really means and how we should react when you might feel like there's some inequality coming to you.
That's a great, it's certainly we have a long way to go, but certainly, as you said, we have made some progress. At least people are aware of some of these things, and there is people are becoming a little bit more aware of what's going on in our country, but we certainly have a long way to go, isn't it? Okay, thank you. So now we're going to go to Amir. Amir, what do you think Dr. King would be most proud to see today?
So I think Dr. King would probably most be proud to see like the diversity in our schools and how more diverse we're getting, like Black, Latino, whites, all in our school. Because like segregation back then, people were segregated in daily activities, race, like classrooms everywhere. And how not just that, we're all collaborating on different stuff. Like example, this equity group right here, we're all different backgrounds, we're all working together to fight on the same issue for equity. And I think he'd be very proud to see that, because there was so much hate and bigotry back then from a lot of people that nobody could really come together and like work together as a group and have like these same issues on equity, because we were silenced back then. There was a lot of marginalized communities. Also, people of color in positions of power. There was no like a lot of like Latino or people of color teachers back then, and now we have that people of color teaching our youth. And I think that he'd be very proud to see that today, as there was like not a lot of that back then, informing our education today.
Yeah. That's something to think about. Certainly, as Abel and both of you have said, we can clearly see that a lot of progress has been made. Obviously, we are not where we need to be, because there are certain forces in our community, in our society, that still need to be educated and illuminated. But certainly we have made a lot of progress. I'm sure that Dr. King would be very proud to see the progress we have made so far. Yes. So now we're going to go to Jaliyah. Jaliyah, what are some of the ways we can continue to honor Dr. King's legacy throughout the year?
I think that the question perfectly states it first, because I think that Dr. King should be honored all throughout the year instead of just maybe once a month or once a day. It's something that can be honored all throughout the year. And we can reflect and look back on how his speech that changed minds, more specifically the I Have a Dream speech, can further honor his legacy by we can use his principles that were mentioned and his main points. by applying his mindset throughout the year and using him to guide our changes that are slowly advancing our community. And I also think that he's an example on how if you work hard and dream towards a goal, that we can really make a change in our community.
That's great. So, in your view as a student, you said that basically the argument you're making is Dr. King should be celebrated every day. Am I correct? So, what is preventing us from doing that? What should we do as a school, as a community, and as a city to really, continue Dr. King's legacy and, really follow the preaching, what he really taught us to do? What is it really missing?
I think that we look at many leaders, like more specifically in our equity group, we're always looking at leaders that have made changes. And I think he's a perfect example, but it's not only throughout there, it's throughout the whole year. We just use leader as a term. We're just like, oh, we need to look at all these leaders, when instead we can use examples like Dr. King. Like for our Civics Action Project, they just said to look up to a leader when we can really use him as an example and his principles and the way he did his speeches and work.
And as you're talking, I just, I'm thinking about student voice. That's a clear example that on this panel, how many of you, you all here talking about Dr. King's legacy, the things he have done, he has done to advocate for justice in our country. So, what role students would play? You see students playing in terms of making sure that, in terms of ensuring that his legacy, his work continues to be, celebrated and guide us through our lives.
I think that students can use him throughout the year, but we have to use an example of that. And I know that teachers can bring up multiple leaders, not just Dr. King, but other people of color, whether it be Black, Latinx, many other examples. But I think that we stereotype the leaders more as presidents or politicians, when really people who have made powerful speeches such as Dr. King can be used as well. And they play a role in making sure that they get heard and that they tell teachers and many staff that they want people of color to be used as well.
Thank you. So now we're going to go back to Erta. Erta, do you think Dr. King would approve the way we treat each other, one another today? And why or why not?
In all honesty, I really don't think so. And I don't think that's really putting it harshly. I think that's putting it honestly. Because a lot of what we're seeing now, and I see, and I'm sure other students probably see, is people seem to have not really a focus on equity, and whether that's on a student level, whether that's on a teacher level, it's really easy to see that everybody's kind of disconnected. Like some people might be really interested in equity and interested in creating a society where everybody is treated equitably, but some people have a complete disregard for that. And I feel like we really need to kind of focus on what Dr. King said. He once said, everybody can be great because anybody can serve. And I feel like that's really something that we should take to heart, because we should realize that because we all have the opportunity to learn more, we all have the opportunity to progress, to kind of bring that radical change that we need and that Dr. King fought for, we all need to have a hand in this. And I think that includes not only youth voice, but also educator voice, staff voice, family voice especially. We really need to focus on working together compassionately and productively.
Thank you for that answer. And the last question goes for, this is for everyone. I'm going to give you 1 minute to answer this question. Everyone can really jump in and answer this question. As future leaders of our community, because in fact you are future leaders of it, you are leaders already, but I'm sure that as you graduated and you go to college, I'm sure that many of you will come back and really serve in your communities and contribute something in your community. So, as a future leaders of our community, what message of hope would you like to pass to Revere residents? And this is open to anyone. Feel free to jump in.
Could I jump in?
Yes.
Okay, so the message I would like to pass on is utilize the time you have and the resources because especially you have a voice, and no one should be able to take the rights that you have as a citizen, and even immigrants as well. I feel like anyone should have the right to speak out and make their voices heard about equity, especially now that a lot of people don't really care about it, and words are thrown around and other things are not seen as seriously. But every message has an impact, and if you spread that around and like make your voice heard, I feel like it has meaning, and anyone can come up and help each other out with everything.
Thank you. Anybody else?
I'd like to add to that. Lena, I know that you yourself and like the group, you worked to get rid of practices that were harmful, like with that book that you specifically worked on to get rid of. I feel like that was really one of the examples that we have that shows, we have brought change, we have instilled change, and as all of us are, we're children of immigrants, we're children of people that have worked hard to get here to this point, and I'm sure a lot of residents can relate to that. And I feel like we all need to understand that change is possible, and change happens when we all come together. And in the past year, I've learned that working together cooperatively, being able to meet so many amazing people, I mean, it's been one of the most eye-opening experiences I've ever had. And I feel like when you open your mind to work to seek justice in your community, it really brings about change and also brings about happiness for everyone. And I feel like we really need to focus on that because we are in dark times, and right now everybody needs uplifting.
Thank you very much for the answer. Anybody else?
So I totally agree with what Lena and Erta just said. Be a voice for people who don't be a voice, and give marginalized communities a platform to use their voice, and don't be afraid to express your thoughts when you see something that's not right, because everyone deserves to have a voice, and we all come together to share our ideas. That's when we're at our best and we get stuff done, taking advantage of your opportunities, and when you have platforms to make a change, that will be the best when you get things done for your community.
I also wanted to add on and agree with you guys. I feel like now there's so much problems within the U.S. that definitely needs to be solved, like the injustice within the justice system. I feel like if we all work together collaboratively and work to solve the issue through protests, forms of civil disobedience, just like Martin Luther King did, I feel like we could all put a solve to the problem that needs to be addressed and needs to be fixed, because honestly every problem that happens, it continues to add on as long as people continue letting it pass, and we need to make sure that it stops and address the problems that happen. So yep.
All right, so unless you have anything else to add, I just want to congratulate and thank all these students for these amazing thoughts. It's an amazing panel of students. I've seen these students in action during our equity advisory meetings. They are just an incredible group of students. You can judge yourself, on how they performed tonight with me throughout this panel. I just want to thank you for your work. I hope that this message of hope, this discussion that we had, will galvanize our community and will bring change, gradually change in Revere, so that we can continue to be one solid multicultural community where everyone respects each other and we work towards one common goal, which is equity, social justice, and access and opportunity for everyone. Thank you.
Before we move to our closing piece in tonight's program, we would like to take a chance to thank the many individuals who made this event possible. We offer heartfelt thanks to Mayor Arrigo, Senator Edwards, Representative Janino, and Representative Turco, the RPS teachers and students who participated tonight, Dr. Garcia and Dr. Porter, Janine Grillo-Mara, Jackie McLaughlin, Anna Boltherness, Jamie Flynn, Paul Amato, Robert Dunbar, and Revere TV.
For our final piece this evening, we return to the Revere High School Drama Guild under the direction of Miss Minasian for a recitation of The Hill We Climb, the stirring poem recited at the 2021 Presidential Inauguration by youth poet Laureate Amanda Gorman. Thank you for joining us.
Somehow we've weathered and witnessed a nation that isn't broken, but simply unfinished.
We, the successors of a country in a time where a skinny black girl descended from slaves and raised by a single mother can dream of becoming president, only to find herself reciting for one.
And yes, we are far from polished,
far from pristine. But that doesn't mean we are striving to form a union that is perfect.
We are striving to forge a union with purpose, to compose a country committed to all cultures, colors, characters, and conditions of man.
And so we lift our gazes, not to what stands between us, but what stands before us.
We close the divide because we know to put our future first, we must first put our differences aside. We lay down our arms so we can reach out our arms to one another.
We seek harm to none and harmony for all.
Let the globe, if nothing else, say this is true.
That even as we grieve, we grew.
That even as we hurt, we hoped.
That even as we tired, we tried.
That we'll forever be tied together, victorious.
Not because we will never again know defeat,
but because we will never again sow division. Scripture tells us to envision that everyone shall sit under their own vine and fig tree, and no one shall make them afraid.
If we're to live up to our own time, then victory won't lie in the blade, but in all the bridges we have made.
That is the promise to claim, the hill we climb, if only we dare it.
Because being American is more than a pride we inherit.
It's the past we step into,
and how we revere it.
We've seen a force that would rather shatter our nation rather than share it.
Would destroy our country if it meant delaying democracy.
And this effort very nearly succeeded.
But while democracy can be periodically delayed, it can never be permanently defeated.
In this truth, in this faith we trust, for while we have our eyes on the future, history has its eyes on us.
This is the era of just redemption we feared at its inception.
We do not feel prepared to be the heirs of such a terrifying hour, but within it we found the power to author a new chapter, to offer hope and laughter to ourselves.
So once we asked,
how could we possibly prevail over catastrophe?
Now we assert.
How could catastrophe possibly prevail over us?
We will not march back to what was, but move to what shall be.
A country that is bruised but whole,
benevolent but bold,
fierce and free.
We will not be turned around
or interrupted by intimidation, because we know our inaction and inertia will be the inheritance of the next generation.
Our blunders become their burdens.
But one thing is certain.
If we merge mercy with might,
and might with right,
then love becomes our legacy and change our children's birthright.
So let us leave behind a country better than the one we were left with.
Every breath from my bronze-spined chest, we will raise this wounded world to a wondrous one.
We will rise from the golden hills of the west.
We will rise from the windswept northeast,
where our forefathers first realized revolution.
We will rise from the lake-rimmed cities of the Midwestern states.
We will rise from the sun-baked south.
We will rebuild, reconcile, and recover from every known nook of our nation and every corner called our country.
Our people, diverse and beautiful, will emerge, battered and beautiful.
When day comes, we step out of the shade, aflame and unafraid.
The new dawn blooms as we free it, for there is always light.
If only we're brave enough to see it, if only we're brave enough to be it.